all of the comments are pro Zohran Mamdani. That never happens on a Fox News YouTube video. If you haven't already seen it, there is a great Fox News interview with Zohran Mamdani. It almost seems like the host is agreeing with him on everything. Like, he's talking about deregulating small businesses, etc. He's gotten a lot better on a lot of things. He's apologized to the NYPD for calling them a racist agency and a rogue agency. He's denounced the use of globalize the intifada because it has a violent context, right? So these are very good things. If you just tweak his economic policy a little bit, he'd be the perfect politician if he wasn't born in Uganda, because in America, those people can't become president, right? But on all the comments in that interview, and I was saying the same thing, like, how is the administration and Fox News going to twist this into like Zohran Mamdani gets destroyed by Fox News hosts? Like, then that same question is kind of posed to Caroline Leavitt here. I haven't seen the clip. Here, I'll play it. Caroline Leavitt talking about Zohran Mamdani's Fox News appearance.
I want to get your reaction to that as Martha McCallum sat down with the New York City mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani here in the Fox studios yesterday. And when asked, he refused to call for Hamas to lay down their weapons. Caroline, listen here and we'll get your reaction.
Do you believe that Hamas should lay down their weapons and leave the leadership in Gaza?
I believe that any future here in New York City is one that we have to make sure that's affordable for all. And as it pertains to Israel and Palestine, that we have to ensure that there's peace. And that is the future that we have to fight for.
But you won't say that Hamas should lay down their arms and give up leadership in Gaza.
I don't really have opinions about the future of Hamas and Israel beyond the question of justice and safety.
What is White House reaction to all of that, Caroline?
Well, that's a classic case of I don't want to answer the question because I know it's wildly unpopular. In the Democrat Party, this interview proved that the Democrat Party's main constituency are made up of Hamas terrorists, illegal aliens, and violent criminals. That is who the Democrat Party is catering to, not the Trump administration and not the White House and not the Republican Party, who is standing up for law-abiding Americans, not just across the country, but around the world. And that's why President Trump worked so hard to end this conflict in the Middle East. It was President Trump who brought home the last living hostage out of Gaza, Edon Alexander, who has since been reunited with his family in New Jersey. It's President Trump who is actually pushing for peace. And I would like to add, where are all of the Free Palestine protesters? It's President Trump who freed Palestine.
So they obviously knew that if they showed any of the actual interview, the Fox audience would likely find themselves agreeing, right, with the very popular topics like deregulating small business. I've already talked about that stuff. But of course they have to choose this one clip. And apparently Donald Trump has freed Palestine, asked the Palestinians in Area C of the West Bank, or in Gaza, frankly, if they agree with that. But why the heck would you ask anyone running for a mayoral race, mayoral position, a one-liner question on a conflict that happens to be pretty complicated, that happens to have very bad actors on both sides, and leave absolutely no room for nuance? Like, that's exactly the kind of answer Zohran Mamdani should have given. You cannot say, stripping out all context, right, this group should just submit to the other group that's also bad. It's like, yes, Hamas should, in general, give up their arms, but then it's like, and then what? I didn't want this video to talk about that, but we have another clip, better clip, from Caroline Leavitt about the Trump layoffs, right? Donald Trump has induced a government shutdown, and he is feigning the idea that somehow permanent reductions in force are necessary for a temporary government shutdown, right? This is why these firings are illegal. RAF must be due to actual budget constraints, not temporary budget constraints. That's the logic of the ruling. Here's Caroline Leavitt talking about that logic or lack of. She says so much stuff that's wrong here.
I want to ask you, first of all, about Judge Susan Illman, a Clinton appointee, district judge on the federal bench in San Francisco, who has yet again implemented a nationwide temporary restraining order on what the White House believes is its constitutional authority to cut down the federal government during the shutdown.
Well, the White House believes this, John, because it's just the truth. The president is the head of the executive branch, and therefore he has the right to hire and fire executive branch employees. And unfortunately, the administration has taken the tough step to lay off thousands of workers across the federal government because the Democrats have selfishly chosen to shut our government down in the name of partisan politics. And now you have this far left district court Democrat appointed judge who literally just uses politics from the bench and has no legal rationale for this nationwide temporary restraining order. And she is now blocking the administration from doing what the Supreme Court has already affirmed the president of the United States can do. In fact, this very same judge out of liberal San Francisco in May illegally ruled that the administration and the president does not have the right to fire executive branch employees. And the Supreme Court smacked this judge down in July. She is wrong. She is doing this for political reasons. And the Democrats know that they can judge shop, they can court shop, they can go to this woman because she is a far left hack and she uses politics from the bench. We are very confident we are going to win this temporary restraining order, and the Trump administration will continue to try to fight through this shutdown and get the government back open so we can get people back to work.
All right.
So apparently Caroline Leavitt doesn't understand the intricacies of separation of powers and the idea that the executive branch is still bound by laws even during a government shutdown, right? You have to meet certain statutes to qualify for a reduction in force. Those statutes are not met if they are done in a way like this, where there is no statutory basis, then it is ruled arbitrary and capricious under the APA reduction in force statutes. And the judge strikes it down, and she's like, oh, but this judge is just a far left judge who did it before. The Supreme Court's going to overrule her, smack her down, as she says. That is not what happened, right? I covered this ruling. It was like all these rulings, they're emergency docket rulings, and what happens in the emergency docket is that the Supreme Court does not actually give an opinion on the constitutionality or, statutory compliance of a certain action. They simply say, are the damages irreparable or are they not? And if they are not irreparable, then we don't have to have this injunction going while the litigation is, following through with the appeals process. And that is what the Supreme Court did last time. I don't know if it's going to be like that this time. And that's not even what what the DOJ is banking on here. The DOJ wouldn't even provide the judge, this far left judge, reasons or a legal basis for the firings. The judge literally requested them. The DOJ's complaints were jurisdictional. So trying to claim that the district court didn't have the authority to do this, that's debatable. Maybe they're right on that. But this is supposed to induce higher rulings. Like, if the judicial system is at all functional, this should be upheld. This is very illegal, in my opinion. Because no other government shutdown in the history of government shutdowns. I guess Donald Trump has had the longest government shutdown, so this kind of is the history of government shutdowns. We're living in it. This doesn't usually happen. There is not this kind of mass permanent firing. It's completely absurd. The people who brought this lawsuit, it was the union, and I think they're getting protection for all people in this class. Or at least the injunction says so. And that's of course the correct ruling. The executive branch does not have the authority to do this at all. And she's like, Donald Trump's working really hard to get the government back open. The only thing standing between Donald Trump and working really, really hard is those darn ACA subsidies costing a whopping $35 billion a year and keeping a whopping 5 million people from not being insured. That's the only detail that we leave out of this equation here. Overall, watch the Zohar Mamdani interview. It's a lot more interesting than what Caroline Leavitt had to say. I was hoping she'd actually talk about some interesting stuff, like Democratic Party is just Hamas supporters and illegal immigrants. Like, the Democratic Party is so pro-Israel, it's not even funny. I mean, I'm kind of in that same place where I like before the mass onslaught occurred, I would likely be pro-Israel or a Zionist. But just like given the context of history, but there has been a shift, a demonstrable shift. It doesn't mean that you can go around calling people pro-Hamas when Zoran Mamdani literally condemned globalized the Intifada, which isn't even a Hamas thing. It's a very standard saying there, but they turned the word Intifada into a word that has a violent meaning. Like they blew up many school buses per week under the word Intifada. So I totally understand why Zoran Mamdani backed off from that. But hopefully, maybe do they actually like replay any of the good parts of this interview? Because like I encourage you to go to this interview on Fox News YouTube channel. All of the comments are pro Zoran Mamdani, and it never happens on a Fox News YouTube video.